The movie begins by showing us the remote hideout of a Japanese crime boss, heavily backed by his subordinates. Even though he feels it's excessive, his head of security warns him that this time they didn't send some rookie hitmen. They sent the very shadows of death, an organization of expert assassins. But they live in darkness, and when you least expect it, you're already seeing your own blood painting the floor, filled with paranoia. The crime boss almost guns down the next person who walks in, though it was actually the entertainer he had requested. Once alone with her, he orders her to undress, ignoring that there is a third person in the room. Remember, when you least expect it. By the time the guards arrive, it's already too late. Terrified, the young woman points to the decorative samurai armor. The guards open fire on it, but then a gas is released throughout the place. Immediately afterward, a ninja emerges from the ceiling and starts to kill them one by one, taking advantage of their gas-induced weakness. Armed with nothing but swords, the assassin wipes out an entire army of elite guards. The last one standing is the head of security, who confronts the ninja with a katana and a pistol. After dodging a hail of bullets, the ninja tries to reciprocate, although the enemy moves aside and the bullets end up hitting the poor girl. The ninja is paralyzed afterward, becoming easy prey for the head of security. When he removes the ninja's mask, he is shocked to see a young woman. Suddenly, the lights go out, alerting the reinforcements. Speaking of reinforcements, the ninja also has backup. In comes a single assassin, more experienced and therefore much better at killing. After a nail bomb explosion, the head of security and his few remaining men stand up more out of instinct than conviction. They've already lost this battle. Gravely wounded, the head of security begs her to let him go. After all, his clan leader is dead. However, the assassin, who introduces herself as Umbra, makes it clear that the shadows ordered her to completely finish off the clan. No mercy. With her job done, Umbra revives the earlier ninja, a 17-year-old girl known by the codename 13. On the way back to headquarters, Umbra scolds her for almost compromising the organization and berates her for all the effort they invested to turn her into the best. Annoyed at being called a number, the girl points out that she has a real name, though every time she tries to remember it, her head hurts. Hence, her mentor gives her special pills to stabilize her. Because of how the last mission ended, Umbra decides to send Jakarta, referring to 13, for psychological retraining. During her suspension, the protagonist suffers recurring nightmares about her past, and her medication is the only thing that can clear her mind. Every so often she calls looking for new instructions, but the answer is always the same: keep taking your medication. Back in the building where she's staying, she crosses paths with Manji, an 11-year-old boy, and his mother, Asti, who works in the local nightclub, with everything that entails. Although she doesn't dare talk to them, the young assassin feels somewhat curious about them. That night, she's awakened by a commotion between Asti and her boss, Haga, the owner of the Moonrose Club. Haga and his men attack the mother and her son, while 13 just observes, recalling her own tragedy. The next day, she is surprised to see the police carrying away a neighbor who died of an overdose. Asti. Poor Manji is left all alone, aside from Detective Praso, who promises to keep an eye on him. However, 13 notices something strange about the detective. As time goes on, the protagonist grows impatient for orders. Killing was all she had ever done, and now it seems they've taken that away from her. While eating at a restaurant, Manji approaches her asking for some food. 13 takes the opportunity to offer condolences for his mother, but Manji retorts that she deserved it because she was an addict. Still, the girl is sure that he loved his mother. Proof of this is the knife he had hidden to avenge her death. Full of frustration, Manji confesses that Haga and his men killed his mother. Feeling sorry for him, 13 takes him to the cemetery and shows him how to speak to a departed loved one. Even though she gains a new friend, probably her first, her nightmares worsen. They make her relive the tragic death of her own mother. This time, she opts to skip her pills. On her next visit to Manji, she notices he's nowhere to be found. Moments later, a guy named Jackie enters the apartment following Haga's orders. He remembers that Asti had something very important in her possession that could threaten Haga's business: drugs. Nonchalantly, Jackie takes the liberty of sampling the product. If he was no match for 13 before, imagine now. With a flurry of blows, she forces the poor fool to take her to his boss. On the way, he points out that Haga rubs shoulders with Soem Mitro and his son Ariel, a pair of corrupt politicians who are running for Jakarta's governorship. Haga handles their dirty work alongside their contact in the police, Detective Prat Seho, who also turns out to be his lover. Finally, there's Soria, Haga's twin sister, who's just as ruthless as he is. Once they reach the Moonrose Club, Jackie presents 13 as a gift to his boss. By chance, they leave her alone in the security room, where she accesses the cameras and discovers that Manji snuck into the club the previous night. His revenge mission didn't last long, as Haga and Pratseho quickly caught him. Furious, 13 fights her way to Haga's quarters and attacks him. In the scuffle, she comes across Manji's knife, which she uses to stab Haga, unaware that Soria had her in her sights. The gunfire alerts the police, forcing Soraya and her men to flee. As for the protagonist, she clears a path with her fists, smashing anyone who dares stand in her way, and this without her ninja gear. Although Jackie helps her get out, he refuses to follow her in her search for Manji. Upon learning that Haga is dead, Prat Seho is understandably distraught, or so it seems. The club's cameras caught an adolescent in the midst of the chaos, and his face looks very familiar to her. The news of the massacre also reaches Ariel, whose father scolds him for how he handled the prostitute he got pregnant. Instead of getting her an abortion, he ordered her to be killed. Guess what? That woman was Asti. Now the consequences might affect his campaign for the governorship. Ariel then takes his anger out on his new plaything, Manji. Meanwhile, in some remote forest in Cambodia, Umbra carries out her mission by slaughtering a bunch of masked individuals. In the midst of it, she receives unexpected help from Troika, another member of the Shadows assigned the same mission without her knowing. While Troika deals with another assassin, Umbra bursts into the cabin of her primary target, a Chinese sword fighter who proves to be a real challenge. After their first exchange of blows, the Chinese sword fighter reveals herself to be Wolverine, Wolver, a Shadows deserter who once worked side by side with Umbra. Not anymore, obviously. When Umbra finally subdues her, Wolver asks whether Umbra truly wants to be a Shadow her entire life. They can be more than just assassins. They can join forces and start anew somewhere else. Umbra doesn't care about her argument until she notices Wolver is pregnant, which shouldn't be possible since female Shadows are sterilized. Umbra is so stunned that she lets Wolver go, but as Wolver leaves, she's intercepted by Troika. End of the road. On her way back to base, Umbra learns that there's a new problem to deal with: 13's adventures in Jakarta. Back in that city, Jackie was caring for his sick grandmother, as he does every night, when the lights suddenly go out. It's not because he hasn't paid the bill. Prat Seho and her corrupt officers are at his door. Just as Prat Seho is about to knock him out, her officers warn her of movement outside. And indeed there is. One by one, the officers fall at the hands of 13, who's more unleashed than ever. Note to self, never mess with this girl. From the living room to the kitchen, the corrupt cops get beaten in every corner of the house. And I emphasize beaten so YouTube won't flag this video. Hearing the racket, Prat Seho approaches the door, only for 13 to take her down with a single blow. Once she subdues the detective, 13 demands Manji's whereabouts. Suddenly, Jackie jumps on 13, holding her down long enough for Prat Seho to escape. It was for the sake of his grandmother. Even so, the young assassin chases Prat Seho on her motorcycle, unaware that she's heading into a trap. Defeated, Prat Seho tells her how painful her death will be in honor of Haga, but 13 somehow finds strength she didn't know she had and gouges out the detective's eyes, killing her. Right after that, Ariel knocks her out. She wakes up in the politician's basement, where he's eager to torture her along with Soria. However, Soem Mitro stops them, pointing out that they can use 13 as a security guard during a drug sale, seeing as she single-handedly finished off most of their men in just a couple of nights. As long as they keep Manji captive, she'll do whatever they want. Speaking of him, they show her Manji as collateral. The poor kid is so battered, he's unrecognizable. In his agony, he apologizes for trying to avenge his mother. He just couldn't stop dreaming about her. The next day, Som Mitro's gang meets Kavil, a known drug trafficker, in an abandoned warehouse. Before they face him, Ariel tells 13 she must kill Kavil as soon as the deal is done. If she refuses, Munji will pay. During the exchange, Som Mitro keeps an eye on the boy, who isn't in good shape at all. 13 points out they need to take him to a clinic, but Mitro ignores her. Once the sale is wrapped up, 13 prepares to kill Kavil as instructed. But at that moment, Jackie notices there's a corpse in his car. Manji, the boy's gone. Even though Som Mitro tries to silence him, Jackie manages to inform 13. Kavil, Ariel, and everyone else stops existing for her in that instant. They've taken away the only thing she had left. Suddenly, Jackie floors the accelerator, ramming Kavil's henchman, which triggers a bloody shootout between the two gangs. Jackie maneuvers things so that Som Mitro is killed. Furious, Ariel abandons cover and charges at his enemies. When Kavil tries to flee amid the chaos, Ariel intercepts him and guns him down. With that done, he can finally handle his other pending business. 13. Noticing she's suddenly missing, Jackie tries to quietly leave with Monji's body, but Soria catches him. Actually, 13 catches her, like a Dominic Toretto move. The young assassin fills the place with smoke and uses it to her advantage to gun down the gang members. After narrowly dodging one of Ariel's grenades, she rams her car into his. The fight continues hand-to-hand, a domain the assassin completely rules. In the end, she shoves Ariel into the flames of his car and slits his throat with his own bat. Don't ask me how. Now the only one left is Soria. Never mind. She's no longer an issue. Once 13 and Jackie have Manji's body, they leave the warehouse, only to be rammed on the highway. When she comes to, the protagonist is in the hands of the Shadow's supervisor, Troika, and her very own mentor, Umbra. The Jakarta debacle is something they can't allow. The supervisor demands that 13 be executed immediately. Umbra hesitates, just as Wolver did. Jackie seizes the moment, rushing at Umbra to give his friend time to escape, even at the cost of his own life. The protagonist hides in a nearby building, where she frees herself just in time to take on the giant Troika. It's not easy, of course, but Troika gets overconfident, never expecting her to pull out a hidden blade. And so David beats Goliath. Moments later, Umbra arrives with a submachine gun, initiating a cat-and-mouse game in which 13 ultimately surrenders, or so it seems. Even with that trick, she can't overpower Umbra. There's a reason Umbra is her mentor. While Umbra arms herself with a katana, 13 has only some planks of wood to fight with. Although she gives it her best and manages to slice off almost all the fingers on one of Umbra's hands, the protagonist knows she'll lose eventually. So she resorts to a desperate measure, a nail bomb. On her deathbed, Umbra admits that 13 has done a good job under her command, and 13 refuses to finish her off. She wants to break the cycle, a grave mistake, because Umbra has no intention of showing mercy. However, the supervisor's voice telling Umbra to kill 13 gives her pause. Instead of murdering 13, she tosses a nail at the supervisor, who fires back. After taking out the supervisor, 13 keeps Umbra company in her final moments, when Umbra finally reveals her real name, Nomi. That's how her mom used to call her, before Umbra killed her on a mission. Back in Jakarta, 13 buries Manji when a group of shadows shows up to kill her. Their leader is 14, 13's successor, a deranged assassin with zero moral qualms. No point trying to negotiate. Fortunately, a figure wearing a helmet appears out of nowhere and kills 14's henchman, leaving her no choice but to flee. The stranger is revealed to be Burai, Umbra's former master. Knowing that a bunch of shadows are hunting 13, he offers to make her his apprentice. She agrees, but not under the name 13. She chooses to be called Nomi.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.